Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
One more time, everyone. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances of Srila Prabhupada. Welcome devotees to our morning Bhagavatam class. This morning we will be discussing from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 3, verses 50 and 51, and the chapter is entitled The External Reasons for the Appearance of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We're very happy to have His Grace Balabhadra Bhattacharya Prabhu from ISKCON Atlanta, and I'm happy to be on because I've been missing his class for eons. So I'm really happy that I can be on it to hear you, Prabhu. Accept my obeisances, Prabhu, all glory to Srila Prabhupada.
Accept my obeisances, all glory to Srila Prabhupada.
And it's all yours, Prabhu.
Thank you. Haibo Parikshit, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Accept my obeisances, Prabhupada. You're looking good.
Guru and Krishna's mercy. Take it one day at a time.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Ite namine namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paskacha Desatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Haribo 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 Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paribraja Bhattacharya Sutara Sutashi Shrimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Nitya Lila Pavishtam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paribraja Bhattacharya Sutara Sutashi Shrimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Puri Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Se Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Go Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shyam Mukunda Radha Guna Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani Ki Jai Shri Shri Gaurnitai Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Sharad Bihari Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Samveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Sankirtan Jagna Ki Jai Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai Go Prema Hari Hari Bo All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru Shri Gauranga Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So we're reading texts 50 and 51. So we'll start with text 50 and repeat once I say it. Yaktakari Bhagavate Kahe Barabar Kali Yuge Dharma Nam Sankirtanasar Vyaktakari Bhagavate Kahe Barabar Kali Yuge Dharma Nama Sankirtanasara Vyaktakari Bhagavate Kahe Barabar Kali Yuge Dharma Nama Sankirtana Sara. Someone else?
व्यक्त करी भागवते कहे बार बार कलियुगे धर्म नाम संकीर्तन सार
Yaktakari Bhagavati Kari Bhava Kali Gadhama Nama Sankirtan Sara.
Haribo.
Vyaktakari Bhagavate Kahe Bara Bara Kali Yuge Dharma Nama Sankirtana Sara. Hare Krishna.
Haribo. Anyone else?
व्यक्त करे भागवते कहे बार बार कलि जुगे धर्म नाम संकीर्तन सार.
Okay. Bhakta evidence. Kari making Bhagavate in Srimad Bhagavatam. Kahe, they say. Bhar Bhar, time and time again. Kali Yuge, in the age of Kali, Dharma, the religion, Nama Sankirtana, congregational chanting of the holy name, Sara, the essence. Translation. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is repeatedly and clearly said that the essence of religion in the age of Kali is the chanting of the holy name of Krishna. Next verse, 51. Iti dvapara urvisha shud stuvanti jagat ishwaram nana tantra vidanena kalava pi yata srinu. Anyone else want to try this verse?
वेदापरो विशास्तुवन्ति जगदीश्वरं नानातन्त्रविधानेन कलावपि यथा शृणु
Iti Dwapa Vivisha Suvanti Jagarishara Anatantra Vidanina Kalavapi Yatashri.
इति दापर
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Prabhu. Go ahead.
Iti dapara urvisha stavanti jagadishwaram nana tantra vidhanena kalavapi jathashinu.
Iti vidvapara urvisha stuvanti jagadishwaram nana tantra vidhanena kalavapi yata shrinu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Word for word, iti, thus, dwapare, in the Dwapar age, uru isha, O king, stuvanti, they praise, Jagat Ishwaram, the Lord of the universe, nana, various, tantra, of scriptures, vidhanena, by the regulations, kalo, in the age of Kali, api, also, jata, in which manner, shrinu, please hear. Translation. O king, in this way, people in Dwapara Yuga worship the Lord of the universe. In Kali Yuga, they also worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead by the regulations of the revealed scriptures. Kindly now hear of that from me. And in this one-line purport, this verse is spoken by Saint Karabhajana in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.3.51. So in the previous verse 50, Srila Prabhupada, or the verse itself says, in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is repeatedly and clearly said that the essence of religion in the age of Kali is the chanting of the holy name of Krishna. So as I was meditating on this discussion today, and I do hope we'll have a nice discussion, interactive back and forth, this verse is saying that in the Bhagavatam, it is repeatedly and clearly said about this holy name, chanting of the holy names. So I did a little bit of back study because I never had really thought of it like that. You know, how many times in the Bhagavatam this emphasis is given. There's a very interesting word, or several times is mentioned, the word sada, the essence. And then in the verse, one of the verses that we'll look at today, the word comes up again, sada bhagina. So here, this Sara is the essence, and Sarabhagina, who are able to pick out the essence. So it's a very interesting understanding, especially for us in this ISKCON movement, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, because we have historically picked out different things in the movement to focus on. Of course, we know book distribution is a major focus. In recent years, 20, 30 years or so, temple construction has become a major focus. Now we have other things, Sadhu Sangha, we have Kirtan festivals, many things that we focus on, picking out things to focus on. And those things are focused on for extended periods of time. Of course, now there's a focus on education. Not that it was not there in the beginning, but more of a focus now, more organized. But then we have to look back and say, well, what is the real essence? In other words, what is it that exemplifies the real mood of the Krishna consciousness movement given to us by Srila Prabhupada? And in the Bhagavatam, having these verses, now the one coming up, Krishna Varnam, I'm sure Vishnu Gadal Prabhu will give a very wonderful explanation of that verse. But it comes up in so many places because it's in the Bhagavatam. It's one of those verses that this verse 50 is saying in the Bhagavatam repeatedly and clearly. Clearly means without any ambiguity. It's clear. What is the purpose of what is focused on? It's like when we use the word essential. And then, if you look it up, essential and essence are sometimes put together in similar ways. Essential. It's like if you want to build a house, it is essential that you have certain things in place. It's essential that you have a foundation, which means if you don't have a foundation, which is essential, the house will crumble. So this concept of essential and essence, generally they refer essence to like essence of the flower, essence of something. It becomes like the concentrated, this is really what it is. This is the smell, this is the taste, this is the essence. So what is the essence of our Krishna consciousness movement with respect to what this verse is saying repeatedly in the Bhagavatam, clearly said that the essence of religion, so that's the essence of religion. And we have so many religious things that are happening in the world today, and they have been happening for, centuries and so on and so forth. So, but what is the essence of religion? In fact, this point is brought up many times in the Bhagavatam. What is the essence of all these scriptures? What's the real point? We could spend our lifetime studying all the Vedic literatures, but what's the essence? Vedaishtra sarva aham eva vedya vedanta krit vedavid eva chaham. So that sarvasya chaham riti sanivisto matasmatir ganam apolanam cha vedaishtra sarvam eva vedya vedanta krit vedavid eva chaham. By all the Vedas, Krishna is to be known. So we could study or endeavor to study, as some people in some organizations, even within our own organization, are endeavoring to do. And it's not that it's bad or wrong, but is it the essence? Is it the main purpose that Srila Prabhupada gave us? And I was reflecting on the 7 purposes, because whatever we do, we have to judge it based on what did Prabhupada really want. In other words, our minds can come up with many things, but I know my mind comes up with 1,000 things a day that we could do in Krishna consciousness. But what I end up doing pretty much every week, whenever the weather permits, I end up just going on Harinam, because I realize that, well, I really can't make a mistake doing this. It's hard to make a mistake on Harinam. If you just sit down and chant, very difficult to make a mistake. You might forget a melody or you might sing off key, doesn't matter. But it's really hard to get in trouble if you're just chanting Hare Krishna. So it makes sense that the Bhagavatam would repeatedly emphasize what's the best for us over and over. And of course, like this verse coming up, Krishna Varna, Tasa Krishna, really nails it. So in the 4th purpose of ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada says, to teach and encourage the Sankirtan movement of congregational chanting of the holy name of God, as revealed in the teachings of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. To teach and encourage, that requires outreach. It requires going out, meeting people, bringing people back to the temple. I remember many times we go on Harinam and we bring somebody back to the temple who would never leave and stay and become a devotee. That's only possible because we're out there meeting people who are looking, searching. So again, it makes sense that the Bhagavatam would focus on that and bring it up several times. So I looked up a few verses that talk about it. And actually, this morning in the lecture that I posted from Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavatam class this morning, which I try to do every day because I have to hear Prabhupada every day to make sure what I'm thinking. You see me pointing to my head, that's wrong. It's actually the heart or the mind is to make sure what I'm thinking is in order. And I don't know why. The verse this morning absolutely refers to what we're discussing today. Prabhupada begins by saying, Kirtanya Tirtha Yashasam Punya Shloka Yashashkaram Dhaye Devam Samagran Gam Yavam Na Chabate Namaha. So that's Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, verse number 18. And Srila Prabhupada, let me read the verse actually. It says, the glory of the Lord is always worth singing, for his glories enhance the glories of his devotees. One should therefore meditate upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead and upon his devotees. One should meditate on the eternal form of the Lord until the mind becomes fixed. And in Prabhupada's lecture, where he quoted that verse, this is called meditation. Yavan. So long the mind is disturbed and deviates from our subject of meditation, one should practice this kirtan. So long as the mind is disturbed and deviates from our subject of meditation, one should practice this kirtan. Kirtaniya Sadahari, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila 1731. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advises that the devotee should chant always, 24 hours a day, 24 hours. Kirtanya, it is worth singing. It is worth singing. Why? Punya slokasya, punya slokasya, punya sloka yashaskaram. Even if you do not fix up your mind. Kirtan means fix up your mind. But even if you do not fix up your mind, then you are still gainer. The more you glorify the Lord, you become pious simply by kirtan. It is not necessary that you understand. But if you go on chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, then you become pious. Punya Shloka. Krishna's another name is Punya Shloka, Uttama Shloka. Simply by chanting Krishna, you become pious. So just, absorb that for a second. Just by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Just by chanting Hare Krishna, which, again, the verse is telling us, it is repeatedly and clearly said that the essence of religion in the age of Kali is chanting the holy name of the Lord. That's the essence. So the more we focus on that, and chanting should be done in a certain way. I had a wonderful devotee text me last night around 11 o'clock. he was struggling with trying to understand a particular point about this chanting, because he says that Lord, it says that one should chant in a humble state of mind. But I seem to have read that Prabhupada said one should not think of anything when he's chanting. But here it's saying one should chant in a humble state of mind. So he was trying to square those two things together. So I gave him a long list of things to read, because sometimes it's better not to answer the question. Sometimes it's better to send them to where they can study and get the answer for themselves. And he was very happy to receive that information from the compilation called the Sri Namamrita, chanting of the Lord's holy names. So the point being that when one is chanting, he should hear. Prabhupada said you should chant and hear the holy name. Hare Krishna, hear it. Make sure you hear the mantra. The practice, because the section of that book where it talks about that is the practice of this chanting Hare Krishna. So our daily practice should be focused on humility, number one. Because in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, verses 8 through 12, the first principle of knowledge is humility, amanitvam. And Srila Prabhupada explains, without humility, knowledge is useless, no value. You gather knowledge, you become a little proud of your knowledge, and just like, the king with the turban that doesn't bow down at the lotus feet of the Lord. And sometimes, as you acquire knowledge, you might even begin to question what you've read from Srila Prabhupada. Especially when you acquire mundane knowledge, and then you try to apply those principles to Krishna consciousness. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Our faith in Krishna consciousness, we have to protect it. It is a valuable asset. Any level of faith that you have is a valuable asset, and it must be protected. Like the seed of bhakti, once it is planted, must be protected. Just like if you have a little garden in your house or outside, and people put all kinds of fences to protect it from the raccoons and the squirrels and whatever. And sometimes they put a top to keep the birds out, because they want that plant to grow, to produce the fruits and the flowers and vegetables. So we want our seed of bhakti to grow. We have to be very careful with it. What sound vibrations are going in? And then we're not strong enough to cancel out all the negativity or to process the things that are coming in. When I say process means, well, you might be studying some mundane topic. How can you apply that to Krishna consciousness? You have to be expert to do that. If you're new at Krishna consciousness and you're trying to gather all this information from who knows where on the internet and process it, that's where the confusion comes in. Because you're not able to realize that this has no value, this has value. Many things have value that we can use in Krishna consciousness. The other day, I was explaining to a nice group of people about the example of the jailhouse. And I explained that Srila Prabhupada, the Chaitanya Charitamrita actually says, an analogy Actually, Prabhupada gives this quote. An analogy is good if it has many points of similarity. And I find that the jailhouse example is amazing, how it really encapsulates the whole situation in the material world. So Srila Prabhupada gave a mundane example. He gives many mundane examples throughout his writings to help emphasize what this thing is he's trying to explain, because he knows that we are in the mundane sphere, and just talking spiritual level topics, we sometimes don't get it. So Prabhupada would give us examples that we can identify with. He's expert. We're not. We're not expert. We may think we are, but that expertise has to be based, has to have a foundation of purity. Purity is the force, not just intellectual capacity. Each one of us has a different level of intellectual capacity based on our karmic situation. We're all transcendentally equal in the spiritual world, Satchidananda Vigraha. But in the mundane world, based on our karma, we're born into a rich family, poor family, poor community, rich community, good educational access, all that stuff. So our minds, we have to be very careful not to allow too many things to come in that we're not able to process and use in Krishna consciousness. Another principle is rejecting those things that can be used in Krishna service is called incomplete renunciation. So in our process of renunciation, or renouncing mundane things, we have to be intelligent enough to pick and choose what things can be used in Krishna service, like computers and cars and, whatever. But the essence, again, back to the main point, what is the essence? Why are we doing this? So Prabhupada says in that fourth purpose, to teach and encourage the Sankirtan movement. I mean, what else can be said? His purpose that he gave to us was to teach and encourage the Sankirtan movement. And then the first purpose, to systematically propagate spiritual knowledge to who? Society at large. And to educate all peoples in the techniques of spiritual life in order to check the imbalance of values in life and to achieve real unity and peace. Notice he didn't say anything about his disciples, his devotees. He said to systematically propagate, actively put it out there, spiritual knowledge to society at large. And then in the fourth one, to teach and encourage the Sankirtan movement. So he's over and over emphasizing the need to teach about this Sankirtan. As the verse 50 is saying, repeatedly, it's clearly said that the essence of religion in the age of Kali is the chanting of the holy name. So then how do we do that? More verses from the Bhagavatam. 11.536. Kalim Sabha Jayan Yarya Gunagya Sarabhagina Yatra Sankirtane Naiva Sarva Swarto Bilabhyate. This is 11th Canto 536. Those who are actually advanced in knowledge are able to appreciate the essential value of this age of Kali. Such enlightened persons worship Kali Yuga because in this fallen age, all perfection of life can easily be achieved by the performance of Sankirtan. Again, that's 11.536. So it proves what this verse is saying from the day. In the Bhagavatam, repeatedly and clearly said, the essence of religion is the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. Another verse, 11.537. I'll skip the Sanskrit. Indeed, there is no higher possible gain for embodied souls forced to wander throughout the material world than the Supreme Lord's Sankirtan movement, by which one can attain the supreme peace and free oneself from the cycle of repeated birth and death. Think about that. Let that, marinate in your consciousness for a second. All these people in the world today are suffering, and they're preparing themselves to stay in that cycle of birth and death, samsara. And there's no higher possible gain for these souls who were forced to wander Brahmanda Brahmite Kon Bhagavan Jeev, the Bhagavan Jeev, Guru Krishna Prasadi by Bhakti Lata Beach. Throughout the material world, there's no higher gain for them than the Supreme Lord Sankirtan movement. So this, again, is like the latter part of the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam is progressively moving through first canto, second, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12. So in this 11th chapter, the specific focus on the Sankirtan movement, there's no greater gain, there's no greater activity. And again, back to Srila Prabhupada, he's telling us that is what the movement is meant to do. How do we do that? Well, look at a little bit of history. How did Prabhupada do it? He just went and sat down. And Vishnu Prabhu was explaining, I had such a wonderful time with Vishnu Prabhu when he came to Atlanta recently. I'll talk about that in a second. But he was explaining that Prabhupada sat down and the police made him get up. So he went and sat, that's when he sat under the tree. He didn't start under the tree, he sat down, then the police made him move, and then he ended up under that wonderful tree, which is still there. And that's how the movement started. And Srila Prabhupada himself, in describing it, said, I was alone, I had no mridanga, I had nothing to give people. And then he said at one point he had that little drum, which is half of a bongo set. A bongo set is 2 little drums. But Prabhupada had half of a bongo. He called it dundubi, dundubi drum. And he played this beautiful little beat that I love so much. And then he said Brahmananda came, Achyutananda came. Of course, Sasru Maharaj was there. They all started coming from the sound of that drum and Prabhupada's chanting. And you can see in the movie where it shows Prabhupada sitting there playing his drum, the look on his face, the faith that he has in what the verse today is saying, that the Bhagavatam repeatedly and clearly said, that the essence of religion. So Prabhupada could have done something different. He could have set up, some seminars. We're all fond of seminars. Oh, we love seminars. Oh, and multimedia. Oh, we just love that stuff. Prabhupada could have done that. And then we would have followed that, but he didn't. He went and sat down and started chanting with absolute faith that this is the essence of religion. The essence of religion is not giving a big lecture. It's not. It's nice to do that. It's fun and it's educational, but that's not the total essence unless we are trying to lift up the hearts and minds of people and also inspire the devotees. I put this finger for the Vishnu Gadar story and this finger for the story of another devotee, a Prabhupada disciple many years ago in Atlanta. I'm somehow forgetting his name right now. It'll come back to me. So he gave a lecture, Bhagavatam lecture. He was visiting from Gita Nagari, Gaur Hari. Gaur Hari. Gaur, very famous Prabhupada disciple, Gaur Hari. So he was visiting Atlanta. He was actually one of my favorite devotees during the time. So he gave this beautiful lecture and he had those big bubbly eyes and he would smile like anything. So again, I'm keeping Vishnu Gadal on that side. I have to tell that story. So Gaur Hari, he said, now let's take we had given the class in Kirtan and Guru Puja. Let's take all this ecstasy out to the streets. Wow. And we were just like out the door for Sankirtan and book distribution and whatever else, devotional service, out there to the public. So recently, Vishnu Gadar visited Atlanta. It was very sweet. So he wanted to go on Harinam with me. And I was a little nervous. I said, only just mainly just me and Bhakta Tim and maybe 1, 2. Sometimes Gita Mataji comes out, and, it's just this small little, I said, I'm so maybe embarrassed. I want to show him some big kirtan. And so he came by the train and I'm sitting there chanting with the harmonium, just me. And he comes up behind me and I look around, oh, there's Vishnu Gadar. And he immediately sits down, picks up the mridanga, and started chanting together. And I was just in tears. It was just so beautiful. Just the two of us chanting and all the people walking by, listening and hearing, and devotees distributing books. I said, if you want to say something is heaven, this is heaven. This is the heaven that I'm looking for, the spiritual world, where we're just chanting Hare Krishna. And Prabhupada said, even if they don't hear, this is an exact quote, and I'll find it and show it to you later. Even if they don't hear, doesn't matter, because the holy name is going through the air. It's purifying everything around you. The buildings, the people, the trees. And one spot where we chant downtown, there's 4 trees. So there was a devotee couple visiting from Chicago, and he saw that spot. He said, oh my God, this is like Vrindavan. Look at these 4 trees surrounding us. It was so beautiful. So that's one of our spots we chant. But I was just so inspired. doing what I feel to be the safest position for me and for all of us is what this verse is saying. That is clearly said the essence of the religion in the age of Kali is the chanting of the holy name. That means if we do it, we're doing the essential. We're building, there's a great foundation under our spiritual lives that will never crumble. Sometimes they make a building, like Prabhupada sometimes pointed this out, that they make a building to live 100 years, but you won't live 100 years. You'll die. You spend all the time. But they do make a strong foundation. So what is that foundation? Well, it should be based on the essence. Foundations generally are made with concrete. Because as a young kid, I used to work with a construction man, very good guy. And he taught us how to dig a footer, F-O-O-T-E-R. And the footer is the outline of the basement with bricks and concrete. That's before the basement is poured. You have to have the footer. Then you put the basement. So he also taught us how to make the basement. And everything was so solid that the house on top of it could withstand many things. So what is that foundation for us? What makes our journey on this path of bhakti secure? Faith in the holy names. That's it. It's the essence of religion. If you want to call it, ISKCON a religion, which we don't generally call it that, but if you want to say it is, what's the essence of ISKCON? Repeatedly it says, chanting of the Lord's holy name. And this verse we just read, 2 verses, all talks about Sankirtan. Another verse, Bhagavatam 12th Canto 3:1, Kaler Doshanide Rajan Asti Heko Mahan Guna Kirtanareva Krishnasya Mukta Sangha Parampraje. My dear king, although Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults, there's still one good quality about this age. Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, one can become free from material bondage and be promoted to the transcendental kingdom. So with regards to systematically propagating, teaching, if we can get people to chant Hare Krishna, look at the benefit for them. They can get free from material bondage, even by chanting one time, as in the case of Ajamil, one time, not 3 times, one time. Prabhupada corrected the devotees who did the editing. He was in Philadelphia. I was there in 1975 for the Rath Yatra. And he was giving class about Ajamil from the 6th canto. And Vishnu Gadar really helped me remember that event because there was no book. There was no printed 6th canto. It was the manuscript he was reading from. Fresh, they're just doing the editing and he's reading the manuscript. And then in the manuscript, it said, Narayan, Narayan, Narayan. Prabhupada stopped the class and said, what is this? He didn't say 3 times Narayan, only 1 time, which means he corrected the editors. He did it many times. They assumed he said it 3 times because they've heard, devotees say things 3 times, mantras 3 times. And so they just put it into the text. Prabhupada said, no, only 1 time. And he didn't chant Hare Krishna to indicate Krishna or Narayan. He chanted to indicate his son, Narayan, who he intelligently named Narayan. Many Indian people named their children after the names of God. So by hearing it 1 time, he was saved from the Yama Dutas. The Vishnu Dutas came to protect him. If we can effectively get people to say Hare Krishna, think of the benefit. Here's a trick for all of you Sankirtan aspirants and Sankirtan practitioners. So you said, have you heard of Hare Krishna? And then they go, no. Then they said, Krishna. And they may say the name Krishna. And you said, you know what? I didn't quite hear what you said. Did you say? And he goes, no, Krishna. My ears are stopped up today. Can you repeat that? Krishna. And then another way it works is that someone comes and said, you damn Hare Krishnas. I hate you damn Hare Krishnas. We don't care about the damn. We care about he said Krishna. And if we say, what did you say? You damn Hare Krishnas. And you ask them to say it as many times as you can get then they catch themselves. Wait a minute, you got me chanting. Oh, wow, I'm going to stop now. But it's too late. The contamination is already there. The holy name is already germinating in his heart, purifying him. Yagai Sankirtan Prajaya Jantihi Sumedasa. What is it? Oh my God, my brain is so slow today. What is the first sloka of Shikshastika? Who can say?
Krishna Barnam, Krishna.
Say it again.
Krishna Barnam,
No.
So Cheto Darpana Marjanam.
There we go.
Oh. Okay.
Shikshastakam, yeah. Just see how Krishna works. He took, a verse that we all know, I couldn't even think of the first line. That's Krishna. I told someone the other day is that when you forget, that's Krishna. So whenever you forget, think, that's Krishna. You make advancement. Instead of thinking, oh, woe is me, I'm getting old, I can't remember anything. Oh, come on, who cares? But just remember, it's Krishna. So Cheto Darpana Marjanam, Gundicha Marjanam, cleansing the heart. The Sankirtan movement cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for so many lifetimes. We have to become that Brahmanda Brahmite Kon Bhagavanji Guru Krishna Prasadi Bhai. We don't call ourselves Guru, but we have to become the mercy for the people. That's what Prabhupada wanted. We absorb the mercy by our morning sadhana. It was so nice. Vaishesika Prabhu was also recently in Atlanta. You know, he has his rules for book distribution, the principles. And the first one is good sadhana. Very first one, good sadhana. And I remember back in the day when Vaishesika Prabhu was a Brahmachari living with us in Atlanta, my God, the morning program was like, get out of the way, because we're kind of like stormtroopers, man. Chant your japa, get up at 2:30 in the morning, chant like mad, read the Bhagavatam class, Mangal Arati, big, huge plate of prasadam, out the door. That was the score, out the door and preach all day. Why? Sadhana was intense. I just remember so many devotees, how one dear God brother, Sulochan Prabhu, not the famous one from New Vrindavan, but a different Sulochan from New York, he chanted japa like you just cannot believe. The intensity, the focus. And he was one of the biggest book distributors. His mind was just absorbed in the holy name. You could see it on his face. He opened his mouth really wide and he would just go around Tulsi absorbed. Charudeshana, Vaishesika, all those devotees. So when Vaishesika says one of the rules or principles of book distribution is good sadhana, he is speaking from example. He's not just theoretically saying, oh, good sadhana. I know, I saw him focus on sadhana, which made him the person that he is today, who is inspiring devotees all over the world. Begins with good sadhana. So keep that in mind. Oh, we can't go to the temple now. It was COVID. We're just online. I don't want to hear that excuse. That's nonsense. You get up out of your bed, wherever it is, on the floor, on the bed, you do the sadhana. I think the temple can't accommodate it right now. And then you say, well, because the temple's not doing it, whatever. No, you want to make progress. You want to become fixed on this point of preaching, teaching, encouraging the Sankirtan movement, systematically propagating. You want that? You should want it. I want it. Then we have to have good sadhana. The 16 rounds have to be really chanted nicely. Then you make the excuse, well, I have to go to work and I can't chant all my rounds in the morning. Prabhupada used to chant at one point 4 rounds, different little segments of the day, morning, lunchtime. And then he said at night, I would not sleep until I finished. So there are no excuses. I remember once a very wonderful devotee in Atlanta that he was the cook. And he was such an expert cook that he made sandesh. His way of making sandesh was incredible. So our temple president took some of his sandesh and gave it to Prabhupada in Mayapur. And Prabhupada ate the sandesh and said, who has made this sandesh? Bring him to me now. And then the temple president said, Prabhupada, he's in Atlanta. I can't bring him now. Prabhupada loved it. So Ramanath Sukha, very wonderful devotee. At one point, we had lost all of our devotees in the temple. Practically, it was just myself, Sarup Damodar Maharaj, who was there, Ramanath Sukha, a couple of bhaktas. That's about it. So Ramanath Sukha had to wake the deities, cook all the offerings, do all the artiks, dress the deities, everything. So it was difficult for him to chant his japa. So he went to Hridayananda Maharaj and asked Maharaj, what can I do? I'm struggling. So Maharaj told him the story of Bhattacharya Maharaj himself, the library party, the famous BBT library party, that they had to be at the university early in the morning. So they couldn't do all their, sadhana, even the Gayatri, everything. They just had to put it and just go and put Prabhupada's books in those universities. So he said sometimes we'd have to chant everything later in the day, but he told them a very wonderful instruction, which I'll never forget. Whenever you chant, chant nicely. Think about that, everyone. Don't worry about when it is you chant. If you can chant in the morning, ideal. Brahma Muhurta, ideal. But suppose you can't. Whenever you chant, chant nicely. I got that instruction also from Achyutananda, at that time, Achyutananda Swami in Mayapur in 1976. I was, fancying myself as a good kirtan leader. And I knew that Achyutananda Maharaj was the kirtan leader at that time. So I had this private audience with him. And I said, Maharaj, what is the secret for good kirtan? He looked at me with disgust. Secret? No secret. Chant nicely for Krishna. All devotees who are interested in kirtan, I know devotees love kirtan melas and festivals. It is not a show. Please understand, it is not a show. No matter how dramatically we set it up, lights, camera, action, whatever, it's not a show. Chanting is not like that. It's for the pleasure of the Lord. We're chanting for the Lord's pleasure. And those who get to hear such sincere chanting will be purified. But it's very easy to slip into that hero worship mood about chanting. Once during Prabhupada's time, they started a kirtan competition in Mayapur. Some of you may have heard the story. I was not there, but they did a kirtan competition. LA, New York, all the big shots came and they did this whole competition. And I think the prize was a set of silver kartals or something like that. Prabhupada heard about it. He stopped it. Kirtan is not meant for competition. What do you mean kirtan competition? How do you do that? Outdo the other one. Everyone's trying to outdo the other one. That's not kirtan. Kirtan is meant to satisfy the Lord. It's for his satisfaction. What is the verse that's coming up? I hate to even say it because I know Vishnupada is going to really get into the next verse. In the age of Kali, intelligent persons perform congregational chanting to worship the incarnation of Godhead, who constantly sings the name of Krishna. To worship, perform congregational chanting to worship Krishna. I remember seeing a couple of times in some kirtan melas where devotees were sitting and the deity pictures or whatever were behind them. And it just really, my body was like, this is not right. You have your back to Krishna. You can't do that. Krishna should always be front or you sideways or something where you can see Krishna because you're chanting for him, not for this group. No, of course you're chanting so that the devotees can also hear. That's definitely. But it says right here, chanting to worship the incarnation of Godhead. So as one of the verses today says in Srimad Bhagavatam is repeatedly and clearly said that the essence of religion in the age of Kali is the chanting of the holy name of Krishna. So I found many, many verses. I just wanted to see for myself how many verses were there. I wanted to confirm this one. And I just had to stop because page after page was coming. I was, oh my God, I didn't realize that. It's amazing. So much goodness is here in the Bhagavatam. So I won't go any further. We'll stop. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, we'll stop there. See if anyone has a question, comment. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Balabhadra Prabhu. Oh, well, that goes Prakshit. He can speak. He's on.
Hare Krishna.
Howdy, Bo, my dear friend.
Please accept my humble obeisances.
Accept my humble obeisance.
So we're talking about the temple, the Atlanta temple, and you mentioned that at that time there were a few devotees left there. What happened? What happened? What caused it?
They left. They meaning, and I won't mention names because they're all wonderful devotees, but what was happening is that was the time when they started selling candles, not paintings. Paintings hadn't come in yet, but candles was the main thing. So they left the Atlanta temple to go to Denver. Anuttama wasn't there then. I don't think he became president. I can't remember who was president. So they went to Denver. Jewelry, you remember Prabhupada made some points about jewelry, temple selling jewelry. He didn't like that very much, He said, now they become jewelry salesmen. So he didn't. So devotees were getting that taste to have some personal money. Because in the beginning, before Prabhupada's disappearance, up to just after he passed, not a single devotee that I knew had a bank account. Not a single. I don't even think the temple president had a bank account. I know Balabhadra who didn't have. He says he was so poor and humble and, ate what we ate, slept where we slept. So that introduction of money making, one devotee very dear to me. In fact, this devotee, when he came to the temple one night, beautiful long hair, he was a hippie musician and all that, beautiful girlfriend. I told him, I said, if you start chanting 16 rounds, you'll move in the temple within 2 weeks. 10 days later, he moved in and he became disciple of Prabhupada. 10 days, not 2 weeks, 10 days. He took what I said very seriously, 16 rounds sincerely. So that devotee was engaged by the temple authorities in selling jewelry. And then he left the temple. He told me later on, Prabhu, it got into my heart, this mood to make money. I don't know what happened to me. And he became a very successful business person. He's engaged in devotional service. His dedication to Prabhupada is intense, it's wonderful. But at that time, when he was young, sticking him out there, selling jewelry without any protection. When I joined the temple, I was engaged in Spiritual Sky. I was a warehouse guy for Spiritual Sky in Atlanta. Then I started going out selling Spiritual Sky. But Spiritual Sky, you got Krishna's picture right there. The Hare Krishna movement. It was a wonderful experience, Spiritual Sky. But this devotee was sent out there by himself, selling jewelry, no association. He left. So those devotees, Parikshit Prabhu, they were enticed by this making money. Temple was trying to get money, forgetting that if we just distribute Prabhupada's books, and then whatever money comes, we live with that. That was the principle. Whatever money came from book distribution, that's how we lived. And then we would go out to the intersections with little buckets and collect pennies and dimes and nickels and quarters and bring it back to the treasurer. It was so funny. We collected so many coins in big, huge bags. And the bank told us, don't you guys have any bills? They said, shut up, take it, But it was just as humble, depending on Krishna. So those devotees are still devotees, but that period was devastating. And I remember in Mayapur at the GBC president's meeting, it was a big controversy that some brahmachari in India had a bank account. I'm not exaggerating. It was a big discussion at our meeting. We used to have a joint meeting, GBC presidents. The presidents demanded a joint meeting. They said, we're not going to just, whatever you send us, no, we want to be in the meeting. So we were there. So that topic came up. So my point again, preacher, is that they became momentarily distracted by money making. So we have to be very careful. What is the essence? We're collecting money, fine. But if the focus is on the essence, then the process of collecting money will be in harmony with that essence. Oh, therefore, Krishna, last purpose of ISKCON, 7. With a view towards achieving the aforementioned purposes, which is building a place of pastime, teaching, bring the members together, teaching the purpose of simple life. He said, with a view towards achieving the aforementioned purposes, to publish and distribute periodicals, magazines, books, and other writings. So Prabhupada's vision was to achieve all the other things like building a nice temple, and then you just distribute books, print them, publish them, magazines like Back to Godhead magazine, like we used to distribute hundreds and thousands of those magazines. But then when the distribution went down, that's when the magazine went to subscription base, because Temple stopped distributing the magazine. They used to cost us 25 cents or something like that, and we'd give them for 50 cents. They were just flying out like that. But then devotees stopped doing book distribution. It looks like now there's a lot more book distribution. It is, but it's not exactly. It is, because we have the brahmacharis in Atlanta who are doing huge. We have different devotees, different parts of the country doing books, but not like it was where everybody. Do you know the old system was this? Each temple had to take books whether they ordered them or not. The BBT had one of these 18-wheeler trucks with this big, beautiful BBT logo on it. It would show up at your temple and dump the books on you. Oh, just dump them. And you had to do it. Like in Atlanta, we started a farm in Tennessee, Morari Sebak, which is still there. That farm was paid for by book distribution, period. That was it, book distribution. The Atlanta Temple did book distribution. We bought the farm, And we paid the bills from book distribution. Everything was book distribution, book distribution. And I'm not saying, you can't do anything else, but the essence, because this book distribution, glorifying Krishna, and Harinam Sankirtan, they run like that. 2 tracks, they run together. And on top of that is the deity worship. Actually, Srila Prabhupada points out, and I can't find a reference right now, where Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said both things must be there. The Sankirtan, chanting, preaching, bhakti, all that, and the deity worship, because the deity worship will keep us pure. You get out there and you start, even when you're doing Sankirtan, and it came to the point where devotees were really focused on money. And some contaminations came into our movement, something called the change up and this, all kinds of contaminations came into the book distribution. I'm very lucky that my temple president, Balabhadra Prabhu, when I asked him if I could be trained by Tripurari and all the big book distributors, Pragosh and all, he said, no. He said, you go and preach. That was my training. Just go and preach. To this day, that's how I do book distribution. It's not like I have one line, I say the same. No, I don't. Whatever I read, whatever I study, if I were on book distribution today, it would be about this chanting of the holy name. Absolutely, because that's what we're reading right now. So again, I'm sorry to take so long, Preacher Prabhu, but it was a very painful period where devotees lost focus on the essence, and money became the essence. And we had to be careful right now in this movement, right now, not to allow money, the accumulation of money, to become the essence, because some of us are not strong enough to endure the enticements of money. I'm not saying all devotees, some of us, and it's proven true. Even during the time of Srila Prabhupada, one of his dear disciples stole from him, I think it was $17,000. It was heartbreaking for Srila Prabhupada. And I won't mention names, but it did happen. Took Prabhupada's money. So we have to be careful. Anyway, that's my thought on that.
I thought that's just, you're all curious, but it really opened up so many points for you to, and then the history also to discuss or reveal to us. There are a lot of lessons to learn from this. Thank you for actually describing this.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
I have to agree with Pariksha that just that short answer, Prabhu, you've shared a wealth of information that touched upon so many other points that is really amazing. And I really like the point, Prabhu, that you mentioned that Harinam Sankirtan preaching goes hand in hand with deity worship, because
Yes.
I was remembering a comment, a statement by Bhaktitirtha Swami. And interestingly, I think I heard it from another devotee a few weeks ago, where they said that the care of deity worship is reflected on how the well-being of the community, something like that, if I'm saying it in a proper sentence. So, and I remember Bhaktitirtha Swami really hammering the point that if the deities are taken care of really nicely, if the deity worship doesn't slack, if it's really, on it, that shows the spiritual health of the community.
Wow.
And I was thinking about that, and I was just trying to think who else I heard that same comment a few weeks ago, and I was like, whoa, I think it was Mother Geeta, I don't remember. But I remember just recently we had the class that the entire well-being of the community depends on how well the deities are taken care of.
Absolutely.
So that was definitely a very strong point for me as deity, how we take care. And then that also affects the other services that goes on in the temple. And one of it being, I think, book distribution, Prabhu, like I said, because it all requires sadhana.
Yeah.
Commitment and dedication. Amazing points, Prabhu. Thank you.
But there's one thing I forgot to mention about the deity
Please,
worship
Prabhu.
in Sankirtan. I'm glad you mentioned that, because another practice we all had, and I mean everybody, Swavas, everybody, Vaishasika, all the devotees, we would so intensely look at the deities, as Prabhupada says, as the Bhagavatam says, from the feet to the top. Don't jump to the face, from the feet. And we would scrutinize the outfit and the jewelry and the flowers. So when we went on Sankirtan, when our minds, as they normally would, go flying around here and there, we stopped in the middle of the airport. And what was the deity wearing this morning? Then we go, oh yeah, he had on this beautiful blue outfit with the da-da-da-da-da. And then we get all energized by thinking of the deity and back again to Sankirtan. It was a practice, an actual practice to stand there in front of the deity and look at the lotus feet, the calves, the knees, the thighs, the waist, and the lotus face. Get it in your mind, because you're going to need it when you're out there in that battlefield called Sankirtan. You're going to need it. You're going to need some joy. And you think of the deity and wow. But if the deity's not taken care of, not good. Prabhupada said in one place, the deity should be decorated so beautifully that people will say, how beautiful is Krishna? They don't even know Krishna that much. How beautiful Krishna is, So yes, deity worship is extremely important. And I was fortunate as a Brahmachari Sankirtan devotee, we all had deity service in the morning, all of us. And our service was so nice. Our lead Brahmachari, Radha Mohan Prabhu, he had it organized so nice. We all made our deity plates together. We all went on the altar together, zipped, silent. I've heard devotees talking to each other on the altar. I just want to take a stick and, what are you doing? You don't talk on the altar. Nectar Devotion tells you that. So anyway, we go on the altar, we sit down together. We do all the mantras together in unison, and we bathe the deities, all the devotees sitting there, and then the other devotees bathing the bigger deities. It was just fantastic. The mood was, unbelievable. And I pray, and I hope that it's still going on in some temples, but I don't know for sure. I don't know. But that was the standard. Everyone together, mantras together. It was just beautiful. Bringing the bells together. It was just incredible. So that deity worship, it's not just others should do it. You should try yourself to do it as well, to get some of that nectar. It's very, very nice. And I actually, when I used to train bhaktas, I trained them how to make the arti trays, the bathing trays. That was part of their training, to go in the pujari room, fold the towels and this and that, and learn how to set up the tray. I put them in the floor. I said, this is how you do it. And they got that training. They all became brahmanas by that little bit of training. So deity worship ki jai.
Prabhu, it's really nice that I'm happy that you mentioned this about training the bhaktas, how to set up deity trays and this and that and whatever, because somehow I feel like over time, and I don't even know how this happened, because that's not how we did it in Gitanagari, is that the person who's supposed to do the arati, it's on them to set up the tray, but what happens is that they end up setting up for others. So when others come, it's already ready-made waiting for them, but that shouldn't be that case. If not, they have to, because how I was trained is deity services from the beginning till the end, complete.
Yes.
From the time you set it up till the time you wash it and you dry it and put it away, that's complete deity service. It's not like 50% deity service, So I was thinking about that, but that was how we were trained, at least in Gitanagari in the old days, as they say.
No, that's a good point. What happened with the brahmacharis I had, that I was training some new bhaktas, right after Mangal Arati, them boys would go to sleep. It was like fall asleep. So that was my scheme, my trick to keep them awake. I put them in the pujari room, folding towels, helping set up everything to help the pujaris. So it became an exciting thing for them to do that. It kept them from sleeping in the morning. So a little bit of creativity, but some training as well. Yeah. So different temples do it different ways. And you're absolutely right. Like say Sringar Mandira Marjanado, cleaning the temple, decorating Sringar. That's done by the pujari, the qualified pujari, and what the deities are installed with pran pratishtha. But the background work, if it's sometimes you don't have enough pujaris or whatever, they need some help. So that's a nice opportunity for younger devotees who are pretty much residents of the temple, or initiated or first initiated or on the path of initiation, can learn how to do service and assist the pujaris, if that's possible. I just found that it really helped. It really worked very nicely, to let them do that service.
And also, I think it builds a connection too for them.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah,
it really does. Amazing, Prabhu. Thank you. Would like to ask devotees, this is amazing discussion, wonderful points. I'm sure we all have thoughts. And as you're speaking about book distribution and your experiences, Prabhu, I can't help but think of Nitya Gopal, who's online.
Hey, Nitya Gopal, Haribol.
Because, he has the book distribution fever in him.
Oh, I can feel it all the way here.
Oh, Prabhu, I get so much, enlightened and energetic by hearing all your book distribution story. I feel that there's so much Prabhuji has energy and learn from. Please give us the blessing, Prabhu.
No,
That's
thank
a
you.
wonderful service. As you said, doesn't matter how you prepare, but you end up always doing Harinam and book distribution. That's so wonderful.
It's so
That's
wonderful
so
for me. It's so wonderful for me. I mean, especially when my dear friend Geeta Mataji comes out. We do kirtan and she'll do some book distribution. And it's physically, it's not that easy. As we get older, it's a little more difficult. Oh, and even more striking is my dear godbrother and mentor, Charudeshna Prabhu, who's so dear to all of us in Atlanta. Charudeshna is, he's suffering from Parkinson's right now and it's progressive, but he still, whenever possible, goes out on Harinam and book distribution. I bring a little chair for him. So he'll sit down in the little chair and he calls people over. It's so funny. And they come over and he's like preaching like anything. In the old days, he was the first devotee to do 200 books in one day. And Prabhupada noted that in a letter. It is simply wonderful that Charudeshna has distributed 200 big books in one day. First one to do it in the world. And he's our dear Charudeshna here in Atlanta. And still to this day, he'll call me sometimes on Friday. He'll say, Prabhu, I'm so sorry. Today I had to go for my treatment. I can't come today. I wanted to come today. In his mind, in his heart, he's always thinking about Sankirtan, even though his body is just falling apart by Krishna's arrangement. But the devotees have rallied around him, trying their best to help him. I was at a wonderful new opening of a new center we have in Atlanta, outside of Atlanta, beautiful place. It's called the Lakshmi Nrsimha Cultural Center. So I was there at the opening, and this wonderful young devotee from the Indian, culture, he was sitting next to me. We were talking. So I have a tendency when I talk to people, especially on Sankirtan, anywhere, first time I meet them, I say, what do you do for a living? Every single time I do that. So he said, I'm a physical therapist. Oh, no. I said, does your physical therapy extend into Parkinson's? He said, absolutely. I have a whole program for Parkinson. I went, oh my God. I said, and I explained to him about Charudeshna. Guess what's happening now? He's going to go and visit Charudeshna. He lives in the north of Atlanta. Charudeshna lives on the east of Atlanta, probably an hour or so away. That devotee's going to go there and take care of Charudeshna. I was like, Krishna, what are you doing making me see all this wonderful nectar here? And the boy was so excited to take care of Charudeshna. When I explained who Charudeshna was, the greatest book distributor in the history of Atlanta, if not in the world, because he started that big numbers. He would go out on Sankirtan, he would go out, and Vaishya was talking about this as well. He said Charudeshna would get up in the morning and just go to the airport, sometimes before Mangal Arati on Friday. And he wouldn't come back practically until the next day. This was Vaishya remembering him. That's how great Charudeshna is. And we're fortunate to have him in Atlanta. You guys can't have him up there, okay? he's ours.
I'm sure that was the next question by Nitya Gopal. I'm pretty sure.
You would be so pleased to meet him. He's so sweet. Maybe I'll bring him on the class one day. He's so sweet. So sweet.
Oh, that would be nice.
Mother Geeta, what is your thought about Charudeshna? Geeta Mataji?
Prabhu, she said that she can get on audio.
Oh, okay, no problem. Okay.
But yeah, that would be nice, Prabhu. If you can bring on Charudeshna, Prabhu, and inspire all of us. And
oh my God,
he'd love to steal as much ideas as he can from the foremost Charudeshna, for that would be amazing.
The essence of Charudeshna's preaching was kindness. I have a photograph, I'll find it someday, of Charudeshna. We used to wear wigs in the old days, and Charudeshna's African-American, so when he put on a wig, he looked like he was Latino or something, right? So he's got this wig, but he always had a three-piece suit with the tie. Pucka, first class. And Prabhupada liked that, dressing like a gentleman. He liked that.
He would always say dress to a dress.
Yeah. So Charudeshna's standing there with like a soldier or something. The look on Charudeshna's face is not like, I want your money. I want your heart. I want to touch your heart. It's like the boy was like fascinated with just the mood. So the Sankirtan mood, Nitya Gopal, I'm sure that's where you are. Just people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Somehow within the span of 30 seconds or 25 or whatever seconds, you show them that you care about who they are. One simple thing that I'm sure most of you do, you ask them where you're from. Because people love where they're from. Oh, I'm from Chicago. Then I say, you know what? I got some friends in Chicago. They're on Lunch Street. They go, really? because that's where the temple is. I'm from New York. I got some friends in New York. They're on Schermerhorn Street, wherever they're from. LA, it's like, wow, really? So you've already made friendship. You've shown that you care about them, at least where they're from. What's your name? What do you do? Before you start, hey, I need to, take this. And Vaishnav is so sweet the way he does his book distribution. I just love it. You got to get him to come there and do a seminar the way he just did in Atlanta. He took all the groups in Atlanta that were kind of like not fighting with each other, but not exactly on the same page. He gave one seminar. All those particular groups came together. The next day, all of those devotees, numbering about 50, went on book distribution. And Vaishnav told him the night before, he said, no book distribution, okay? You cannot distribute a book. All I want you to do is touch the pavement. He said, what? Touch the pavement. Get out of the van, touch the pavement. So there's a picture of Vaishnav with those devotees pointing to his feet, pointing to the pavement. Because they just were so happy to go out. But they all distributed books as well.
We are trying to get hold, actually not trying to get, well, both. Trying to get hold of Vaisheshika Prabhu and trying to bring him here, and it has been pulling teeth.
Because everybody wants him.
Prabhu, from the high authorities here.
No, if I have the opportunity, I will definitely encourage him that there is a spirit in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, that needs some assistance. Because Nitya Gopal Prabhu is trying his best with your support, Mataji, and Pariksha's support, trying to inspire the devotees. Because, see, it's all about inspiration. Okay? A leader who's going and no one's following, that means he's just taking a walk. A real leader that people are following. So it starts with just you, Nitya Gopal, but I'm sure you're already doing it. You just keep doing it. Like when I go on Harinam on Friday, Geeta can attest to it. Sometimes it's just me and Bhakta Tim. But we're still going to go. We're still going to go. And then sometimes it's 10 or 12 devotees. It's amazing. Little kids. Oh, I have 2 kids. I've told you about them before. Garima and her little brother, Krishna. They both started book distribution at 2 years old. Both of them. Now I have a new one. Nimai. I think his name is Nimai. The guy's only 6 months old. And he went on Harinam with me and gave out a book. 6 months old. Why? Because I'm out there. And his mother is so sweet. She was in Philadelphia for a while. She loved Harinam and she used to come. I said, you got to bring your little kid. He said, but he's only 6 months. Bring him on Harinam. And there he's sitting with me. I have the picture to prove it. He's sitting there looking at me on Harinam. I was like, wow. So again, Nitya Gopal, all it is just you don't ever stop. If after 50 years I'm still doing it, and I enjoy it more now than before, after 50 years in the movement, just keep doing it. Just keep
so that we can continue.
Yeah, thank you very much. So back to you, Anasuya.
Thank you for such a wonderful class. In fact, Radhapal Prabhu said it was such a wonderful class. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for delivering such a nice talk. And I think this is something that we all have to hear over and over again is the 2 points, Prabhu, that I think you really stressed upon was sadhana, really keeping on the sadhana, and just keep doing it. Even if it's 1% or 2%, just keep doing it, whether it be on the streets. In fact, one idea that Vaisheshika Prabhu said that I really like is that just putting it in any place, like probably in a doctor's office or putting it in, because like Parikshit, that's a laundromat that he would go to. Well, when he could, now he doesn't. Now he has my first daughter does it. But that's a laundromat that they go to wash the big comforts because it doesn't fit in my washing machine.
Yeah.
And they would go there and put the Bhagavad Gita and Sons of Self-Realization and stuff like that. When we go back, it's gone, So we can find different ways to give the books, it's just, as they say, a small thing goes a long way, just the small things, and we just got to be on it and just a little bit at a time, nothing fancy, nothing big.
And don't worry about so much the numbers. I mean, sometimes devotees get hung up on the numbers. And if you do a lot of books, that's great. But if you do one book, okay, like I told you, I met this guy in my hometown at a program I was doing last year. He called me up, said, hey, I'm reading the Bhagavad Gita. I'm up to chapter 7. I went, really? Then a guy the other day called me from that same place. I mean, this is specifically an African-American community. He said, I just want to make sure you remember me. My name is Dion and da-da-da-da-da. We're going to connect again. You met me and then told me about yoga, da-da-da. So it could just be one person that Krishna sent you out on Sankirtan to meet. His name is Bhakta Ben from East Point, Georgia. Later on, he'll become Balabhadra Bhattacharya Das. But I sent you, Bhakta Bill, later on Vaishnavananda. I sent you to find Benny Tillman from East Point because I want that boy. And that's me. That's my story in a nutshell. I'm standing
Wow.
downtown, waiting on the bus, go home from work, probably high on marijuana. I don't know what's in my brain back in the day. And this guy comes up to me, who is still my dear friend right now, Vaishnavananda Prabhu, but he was a Bhakta from New York who moved to Atlanta.
Wow.
And I asked him, I said, why did you come up to me? There were hundreds of people. I said, I must have looked spaced out. He said, no, I could see that there was something in you. So Krishna sent him on Sankirtan by himself, Bhakta, Dhoti, everything, downtown Atlanta, came straight to me. So Nitya Gopal is not about, I mean, it is good to have, dozens of books, but you know what Vaishasika does? It's not like each person does hundreds of books. Hundreds of people do 3 or 4 books.
Wow.
Correct.
I read, I think it was like 400 devotees went out on Sankirtan and 100 and something, 150 were children. Come on. Wow. So I know when he came to Atlanta, at least 50 devotees gathered together to go out on Sankirtan with him. That was incredible.
Mm.
So you just keep doing what you're doing, okay? As they used to say back in the hippie days, keep on trucking. Just keep on. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Such a wonderful
you.
point. And I know Nitya Gopal got triple, quadruple inspired me.
It's such a wonderful and enlivening, hearing the stories of, book distribution. And as you mentioned, we see here also the young devotees, youth, like Rohin, they are like slowly getting trained and interested, and
Wow.
they are up. They wanted to do the service. So when you keep doing it, automatically, our youth learns and they wanted to do it.
So are you doing the MSF, the monthly Sankirtan festival format?
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah, we
That's
do
perfect.
MSF downtown.
That's
They
how
did one last month.
Oh, wow.
Because last year when Anandama Prabhu came, we used to do it in downtown Front Street in the corner of Front and Walnut. Every month was great. But when we did it, I think the last Saturday in the like around 3 o'clock or something in the afternoon for like a couple of hours, 2-3 hours. Then when Anandama Prabhu came for Rath Yatra and he came down that same spot, Anandama Prabhu is such a manager that he will do his background check and come and give me all his feedback. So he came to me and said, Anasuya, I don't like the spot. It's very dead and quiet. I think we need a much better spot. It's too quiet. He says, you're only seeing cyclists and it's like 2-3 people. You need to pick a very busy spot where it's like really booming and buzzing. He used the word buzzing. So pick it on a different day. So then I gave that feedback to the book team. I said, okay, the GBC doesn't like the spot. We got to find a buzzing spot. So we found something called Third in the Berg. And it's the 3rd Friday of every month where it's a buzzing event, Prabhu. So last month, the book distribution devotees went, and that's when they have like on the street live concert. People are drinking, people are eating, people are smoking, people are there, but people are there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then from there, right down the corner, there's North 2nd Street. And because it's happy hour Friday night, that's when the whole downtown goes crazy. And I think Nitya Gopal, you gave like 30, 40 books, you said? How many books you said?
We did on that one of the event, I think 30 books, but I think we good amount of book we distributed on that.
On that
That's
night.
nice.
So and that seemed to be the best time because it's buzzing. People are out there, you can get the attention, and it's like really, really busy. So we switched it from Saturday once a month to this Third in the Berg. And it's coming up this Friday, so we have to figure something out. We got to do something this Friday because this Friday is the Third in the Berg. But yeah, it gets very busy because it's happy hour and that's when you can get people's attention.
That's
I
beautiful.
was talking to Adi, my son. He said he's ready to do the kirtan. I said I'm ready to do the book distribution.
Wow.
Saurabh is ready, Prabhu.
Haribo.
There you go.
So yeah, we'll get.
Actually, I think even my daughters asked me, can they go? I think. Let me check with one
And
of
they
the
go, they
moms.
better go.
That will be
Yeah.
wonderful. We'll pick the
So let
nice
me
spot.
check.
We'll
Yeah,
the nice
so
kirtan.
yeah, so because I was telling Nitya Gopal and a couple of devotees that and I don't know if this is wrong, Balabhadra, but probably you can correct me. But when people are on high, drinking, eating, smoking, jazzing, that's when you can get them.
Hey, I told you, I'm the example. I was probably high today. Yeah. I mean, listen, Prabhupada's first people, they were all high. All of them practically.
Pumpkin Square Park, right?
Well, yeah, even the ones that were coming to 26th Avenue, except for that's Haryasha, except for maybe Rupanuga Prabhu. Rupanuga was a very mature kind of person. Even Brahmananda was kind of like mature. He was working in the school system. But the rest of them were kind of like Gargamuni. They were like, yeah, man, far out, man. Swamiji's cool, man. Yeah, man. They were just as high as a kite. So, yeah, it kind of diffuses their defense system a little bit. And they're willing to listen a little bit. I mean, if they're on alcohol, sometimes a little hard because it alters your brain a little bit, But hey, doesn't matter. You give it to them. Prabhupada didn't worry about who's drunk, who's not drunk, who's rich, who's poor. Just give the holy name and smile. And as you go, Paul, you have a very nice, disarming face. That's all you need. You don't need anything else. Just like that. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, please bless
They don't
us so
see
that we
smiles.
serve this little.
What they see is they see people who are suspicious. What do you want from me? And you're coming with this smile, giving, it's free. You just give it like you do. And you don't have to say a whole lot. Hey, how are you?
You got it, bro. You got it. Halfway is your appearance and the way show up and bring up yourself. That's way. The moment they see the happy people coming and approaching them, they feel to be approachable and want to talk.
That is your Sankirtan seminar. Once you see that, once they see the happy people, the books go out.
And also, Prabhu, I like the point that you mentioned, that you said that you started off saying we are the Hare Krishnas, and then you make them say the word Krishna by acting like, I didn't hear you. That was a nice trick. Nityagopal, you should try that, Nityagopal.
Especially when they criticize, they say that, excuse me for using the word, but there was you damn Hare Krishna making all this noise. I said, what did you say? I didn't hear it. Damn Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. But sometimes they catch themselves. Wait a minute, this guy's making me chant Hare Krishna. Let me stop. But no, we love it. Yeah. Unless you're not practicing the first principle of knowledge, which is humility. One, Prabhupada says, not being anxious for the satisfaction of being honored by others. If you practice that humility, then if someone criticizes and says the word Krishna, you don't take it personally. You take it as a blessing. By that person, because of my presence, said the holy name of the Lord, his life is now perfect. And then when they see that in you, it diffuses. Prabhupada said in another place, if you're always meek and humble, no one will cause you trouble.
That's true, bro. We go at least close to 50 times a year out, and not a single event we felt like, why we went there or somebody criticized.
Wow.
All the time, such a blissful time, and people are ready to listen. But so nice to be out there and distributing Harinam and talking to people.
Thank you for your service.
It's like where you get the first-hand experience to give the Krishna and the love and opening their door for the devotional service. This is like a wonderful opportunity, and specifically we have the mercy of the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Prabhupada with us when you're going. We are not going alone. We are representing whole Guru Parampara. Yeah. With their support, with their blessing, with Krupa, we are trying our little effort.
Thank you for your service, Abu. Thank you.
I have to share a quick pastime that happened 2 months ago. We started doing the Ice and Fire Festival, and there's one they had in March, but the weather was so bad. It was really windy. And at the 11th hour, I was telling Nityagopal, let's just see how better, because I don't want devotees to get hurt, so cold, I mean, I'm thinking more of devotees' safety and security and not falling sick and, having that manager hat, right? Because I don't want devotees to fall sick, because it was really cold and very windy, Prabhu, really windy. So I told Nityagopal, Prabhu, I don't think it's safe. I don't think we should do it because I don't want devotees to fall sick, blah, blah, blah. This man went out anyway by himself, Nityagopal.
Wow.
He went out anyway, alone by himself. I think we were there for 3 hours, Prabhu?
Yeah, we distributed 35 books and wonderful.
He gave out 35 books. He went out anyway. He said, Mataji, I will go, but I won't let the devotees go because I don't want to put them in risk. I will go. I said, Prabhu, are you sure? It's really windy and cold. Because I'm thinking about his safety.
Wow.
But he went out anyway. He gave out 35 books by himself.
That's incredible.
Such a blissful time. Prabhupada sent, I was alone there. but there was a fire blowing guy comes out of nowhere. They said, I wanted to, do this, the show next to you and attract the crowd. And he was there, and he knew them. Next Sunday, he came to the temple.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, he came to the temple. He honored the prasad and he listened the lecture. But I was alone. I mean, there was not much support, but he stayed on our booth more than 2 hours, and he helped entertain the crowd and gather the crowd. Such a wonderful time. Like where you in the expect like this kind of a magical thing.
That is yukta vairagya. That's how we utilize things in Krishna service. Fire blowing guy, this guy did. When you're out there, people show up. I mean, we had a guy show up with a saxophone. I said, "Man, you play saxophone? Sit down and play with us." And he blew that saxophone right with the kirtan. It was just beautiful. Just keep engaging. Just keep engaging people like that. Don't reject anything unless it can't be used in Krishna service. If a guy gives you a bottle of liquor and say, "Hey man, I want you to have this and enjoy this," can't accept that. Thank you for your gesture. But if somebody, like you said, the guy's doing his entertainment, he wants to help you attract people. That was Krishna's blessing on him. Amazing. He had the presence of mind to think that he was helping you. Wow. That's deep.
Yeah. Amazing, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
So wonderful.
Thank you.
Wonderful class, Prabhu. As you can see, it really inspired us, gave us the sometimes we need the once in a while, the kick more better than an I think. Yeah. But we thank you so much, and we thank all the devotees for such a beautiful, wonderful, sweet, interactive discussion. And I know many of us are very inspired. I know I am. And this Friday we'll get ready for Third in the Berg. And Balabhadra Prabhu, you always inspire us, Prabhu. Whenever you come online, you're always inspiring us, and I can never thank you enough.
Thank you.
We're just waiting for you to manifest yourself
will
here.
Go on Friday. Yeah. Because of Prabhuji's class, we are prepared for Friday.
Exactly. We're just waiting for you, Prabhu, to come to Harrisburg so that we can take more of mercy from your lotus feet, Prabhu.
Well, I'm definitely focused on Rath Yatra. I talked to
we got him on Rath Yatra.
I talked to Sugata last night.
Wonderful.
I have to get up there for Rath Yatra.
Rath Yatra is 2-day festival. We have the Harinam earlier day and the next day Rath Yatra.
Yeah, Mataji was telling me about it. I'm still meditating, so I'll be in touch with you, honestly.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you. So we got it. I'm so excited now. Thank you. Vanchakram Divyascha, Kripasindavevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavega Namo Namaha, Srila Prabhupada ki.
Yeah. Harinam Sankirtan.
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol, everyone.
Hari Krishna.
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.